PhD project was about the community inclusion experience of wheelchair users following the Canterbury earthquakes. And I suppose it came out of the idea that following disasters, disabled people are generally disproportionately disadvantaged after disasters. And it was interesting to find out whether or not that was the case in Christchurch. And when I kind of delved into a lot of the literature, there was some research that had gone up to 2 years post-disaster, but nothing that had looked 3, 4, 5 years after a disaster. So it was a really good opportunity to look at that. Basically found that after the earthquakes, disabling barriers that existed pre-earthquake were magnified post-earthquake. And it's almost like the time after a natural disaster, any kind of pre-existing inequalities existing in society can become kind of magnified and exacerbated. So I looked at up to 4 years post-earthquake, and at that time when my study finished, what was really interesting was that a lot of the community domains where wheelchair users were still disadvantaged hadn't actually returned to those pre-earthquake disadvantage levels, which were already kind of pretty bad. But what would be really interesting now is to know what it's like 10 years afterwards, now that the rebuild's kind of by and large pretty much complete, apart from some key anchor projects. Yeah, I think now 10 years on, just from my personal experience, as a wheelchair user, especially the CBD, I find it personally pretty fantastic. Whether it's curb cuts or access or lifts or like the Margaret Mayhew playground, you can just access it everywhere and they're in a wheelchair. So the time I spend in there on my own or with my family is really good, and you can get most places.